it's going to be impossible to sing at this hour.
I'll be on my own, but it's alright. Cause no one knows what the future holds. I ain't gonna try my hand.
For me, the feeling that comes most often is when I'm trying to match lyrics to music. And there's this moment where it just feels right, where it seems like this something comes and visits you, and that everything is pretty right. It's just the moment when I think it's just the moment when I'm quiet enough to hear what was really supposed to happen. That moment where I'm quiet enough to hear what wants to be over the music.
Hi, I'm Tawnya Pettiford Wates, and this month I get to welcome you to ArtWork, the television show formerly known as Artist Express. I have that opportunity because SCCtv asked me, what working artists in our community would you like to know more about? So I pointed to a young, talented musician by the name of DARRIUS WILLRICH. DARRIUS WILLRICH, even his name sounds like music. Now DARRIUS has more styles than a piano has keys. He plays everything from classical jazz to funk to R&B to his own DARRIUS style soul, hip-hop. I mean, some people would look at that as an identity crisis, but DARRIUS looks at it as growing through the music. Now, he's a little bit camera shy, but we had the chance to sit down and talk with him. I hope it gives you an opportunity to see how this guy really makes music. What are you doing right there?
I am now trying to draw in a certain pattern. Like A1 is 4 bars, but A2 is just 1. You see? Now.
And so you're putting them together? You're overlapping them, or?
I guess I would need to. It'd be best if A1 was 1 bar, so that I could draw in 3 of them, instead of it taking up 4 spaces, because I want the A2 to be actually the end of the 4.
You are like losing me.
It's 4.
4/4. I know one beat for every. I know 4 beats in a measure.
I guess
that kind of
is
thing.
Technical. I guess. That's it.
That's it. That's amazing. So you're producing music right here, right now.
Oh,
on
absolutely.
Your computer.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, this is where it comes straight from the head out here, or even I just start with a.
I mean, it's just a whole different. It's a whole different generation now.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't sit down and write out music on paper.
I do that too.
I
do that too, but this is, this is such a fast musical idea tool. It's called Reason.
Ah.
Yeah, it's like having a studio without it taking up all that space. Like, for instance, I have a mixer right here.
Uh-huh.
But here I can have one on screen that looks almost exactly like it.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And then you add instruments, like that's the drum machine.
Let me hear it. Let me hear the drum machine a little bit.
By itself.
Yeah. Mm. Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. I see.
And the bass is, you can play it live.
Uh-huh. So what do your neighbors think about all this?
That's a good question. I've lived here for going on 10 years, and I've had only one complaint from a recent person from upstairs, and it's not like they weren't wrong.
Are you playing loud or what?
It's just that late.
Ah.
Late.
So
not
you get
really that it was
inspired.
loud.
And you
Oh
had to-
gosh, yes, and you know, it's been so. I've been so blessed to not have complaints before that. You know, I go over the time. You know, you're not supposed to really make noise lawfully after around 10:30. And I've just been lucky to have neighbors that didn't mind me making noise up until like 2 a.m. until recently.
Well, they were probably grooving. You know,
well,
they were grooving on the music.
I'm hoping so. And it didn't help that I had Thaddeus Turner living next door for a long time. He's a guitarist that I play with and is on my records all the time. So, you know, we went back and forth. When he'd play loud music, you know, we'd forgive each other because we understand.
So, yeah, you're producing your own music right here in your apartment. You've got in your computer, you know, this whole kind of studio.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like a studio right here. Is it something that you always knew you wanted to do, or did you just happen on it, or, you know, how did that?
Something like this where I'm doing most and or all of the parts is part because I want to be better at this. Because I'm really more of, to me, like just a songwriter, singer. Like I've written some of my best and favorite stuff, just me and the piano.
Just you and the piano.
And-
See, that's what I'm used to.
And a piece of paper and writing it down. This is the newer thing, being able to arrange instruments, and it's so funny how I'm able to do that live, and here it's more of a challenge. It's easier to have real people playing real instruments for me in a room and kind
Like
of
jamming.
Yeah, and
Like-
kind of or arrange them and tell them how and what to play. And it seems like something naturally happens with people that doesn't naturally happen on here. Like you have to watch. It gets really technical as you have to watch what frequencies are being taken up by the bass or the bass. In the real world, it seems like I think people adjust to be able to
they're
blend.
adjusting
Yeah, to be able
each
to.
other.
Yeah, being alive helps you be able to adjust. You know, and so it's a different trick to be able to know the sonic qualities and how not to overplay something. You know, and I'm the keyboard guy, so sometimes I'm learning that, you know, my keyboard is probably too loud. I'm having it up front, you know, when I pull it back, and just because that's the one I'm most cognizant of, because that's what I do mainly.
Oh, what are we made of? What will we do? Caught in this lonely searching for. I feel her
That's kind of, I mean, I had odd beginnings because, I mean, I'd started playing piano when I was 15. You know, not really as a kid, as a young child, even though my grandma played for the church. I mean, it really wasn't until I moved to Seattle. I moved to Seattle when I was 8 in '79, and I started hanging with a group of friends, most notably this guy named Chris Brooks. You know, he grew up in the church and played music in the church. He played keys, he played drums, played a little of everything. And he played this song called Jesus is Love. That was like the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard, and so that's how it started, really. I heard him play it, and it started with, I have to learn how to play that song. My uncle, when I visited him in Minneapolis, he's a pastor, and he had this little keyboard that he said he had bought for someone else that wasn't using it, and he said, well, you can have it, since I was playing with it the whole time I was there. You know, that was the beginning of the real journey. You know, I started to learn things about that. That's the keyboard, actually, that's on the wall right there. And Yeah, that's how I learned the names of the notes, because the names of the notes are on the last part of the keyboard and all that stuff. So, yeah, that's where it started.
For example, you are classically trained, right?
Jazz trained. Yeah,
I mean, you went to a conservatory type.
yeah. The
school.
Cornish College of the Arts. Yeah.
And do they do this kind of thing at Cornish?
Now they do.
Now they do.
Now they do. They didn't have any electronic. They had barely an electronic music lab. In fact, when I went, they hadn't built a recording studio, really. There was a little facility, but not really what you'd call a recording studio. And now they have those things. I want to go back.
By the way, that's Darius Willlrich on the piano.
Jazz in our community is not something that young people tend to
Very true.
gravitate towards.
Some of the jazz purists have put jazz music in such a narrow little box that if it can't, it's not jazz if it's kind of sticking out, and has so minimized the audience and alienated the audience, and not
Kind of split the audience, like.
Even being in an institution to learn jazz, I mean, it's part. I mean, even though that's part of how we've educated, I don't think talking to the older people that played jazz for long periods of time, like my teachers like Hadley Callman or Julian Priester, who learned a lot of times by just going to jam sessions and realizing kind of from them that jazz didn't get hard to learn until they tried to teach it in school.
It used to just be something that you
grew up and you learned,
like you swam in it. And
Yeah,
so it just
like
becomes
Herbie Hancock, he's classic, he took classical piano lessons, but he didn't learn jazz by the way I learned it. He learned by going to places where they were playing it and playing and not sounding great and getting better and better just by doing it.
But this idea of, having to you go to a club and you sit down and everyone has to be very still and very quiet so as not to disturb.
Yes. That's always going to alienate the younger people. I mean, I can't imagine a world where that would happen to hip hop. But you know what I'm saying? That would be so odd, to have hip hop all of a sudden become Pinky Out.
Pinky Out Museum. Oh,
I mean,
yo.
And I'm sure people like John Coltrane and Thelonious Monk felt the same way about jazz. And here it is,
That's
people have to
interesting.
sit still to listen to jazz.
And you have to be quiet. Yes.
It's not like clapping and rejoicing and an expression of the freedom available in a democracy.
Oh, yeah.
That's what jazz is,
I never thought of it that way.
I think that the hook is that some of the younger jazz musicians that are making jazz music now are incorporating music styles that they grew up with, like hip hop. It's hard for me to understand how it is to grow up in a world that was never without hip hop.
Yeah. And I guess that's where we are, huh?
You know what I'm saying?
With the young people now. I mean,
imagine, we saw it come into existence from not existing.
Right. Yeah.
And then these people were born
into it.
They've never known a world without it.
Yeah.
And it's a powerful. I mean, it's an extension of what jazz was expressing. In urban life. What it is essentially to be American.
Yeah.
It's changed, and that's what it is right now.
Yeah.
Like it or not, the good stuff that's with it in hip hop and the bad stuff, the middle. That's what's worldwide being said is American, just like jazz was.
Yeah.
It's worldwide, whether cats like that it's that way or not.
sometimes the crowd changed the music. You know, I swear, for one era in the 700 Club, man, the hip hop that sounded very classical with like strings and stuff at the top. That was doing it for people. Then all of a sudden, I mean, I recognize that was not working.
People, now, then it got to the thing where we were doing like that fast drop beat, and everything was more on the backside of one. You know, instead of being doom doom doom, everything ka-doom ka-doom. Ka-doom, you know, more like just like biting that new or whatever, the good needle soul type deal. Now, I think it's going more back to aggro, like more on top of the beat. The revolution.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things going on right now, because the new music scene led by them guys like Outkast and the Nerds. There's a new music thing, and then I think there's also a return to like people wanting. I mean, as a keyboard player, I started recognizing it, and people are starting to want to hear changes.
Yeah.
Along with that, because along with that, I recognize the things that I stopped playing because it wasn't appropriate for the night, that I started bringing back, that the crowd starting to respond more.
Yeah, they're starting to have bigger ears. People want to.
Yeah.
More than just the 2 Chainz thing. From the Scarlet Tree to the Baltic Room are completely different audiences.
Oh.
And the music is somewhat the same, but still we tend to bend it a little bit. Well, the Baltic Room audience is more of a hip-hop flavor. And then if you look at the Scarlet Tree, it's more like I think it's more grassroots, more earthy.
Who is to really say that the crowd at the Baltic Room really isn't open to more kind of music? Because sometimes I think us that have been in the night and the people that organize the night have a certain view of what they want to project. And I don't know that it's that the crowd really wants just that all the time.
Just hip hop. Well,
but it's good for business.
Yeah.
My voice is like gone. That's what happens when you work in smoky spots. By tonight it'll be fine.
So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing presently, and different artists or types of artists that you're perhaps collaborating with right now.
Well, most notably, and most exciting to me right now is that I'm collaborating with Vitamin D, Derek Brown, who's a DJ here in town, and to me, one of the best hip hop producers living today. He's
wow, that's a great endorsement.
We've kind of grown up listening to his stuff and seeing him develop as a producer, music maker. Yeah, and it's beautiful to be able to have someone like that in the city. Yeah. I think a treasure.
Yeah,
that has that experience, that knows the history of music. That knows records, like people in his life.
I've always wanted to have Darrius playing some of my hip hop tracks. And he's like, it'd be nice to incorporate the hip hop with the the R&B and the soul thing that I'm doing. So it's like, man. And plus, hip hop is a derivative of what he's doing anyway. So it all makes sense to us. And so from there, we got to building. We did a cut on this last album, and it did all right. And it was like the lead single and stuff. So it was cool. So from there, it's like, man, it's not broke. Let's not try to fix it. Let's try to make some more hits and go with the formula, So not only that, man, D's a cool dude. Not just like chilling with him. You know what I'm saying? Real deal.
Right. All right. We'll see. Let's do it.
Did that again for me?
More arpeggio stuff?
No, just like the little one you did, like right there. Okay.
far it's been like I've been trying to be really sweet. You know, there's sweet things that I have to recall or say, you know, just because of this, my influences like Stevie Wonder, you know, some of the most beautiful love songs ever written, and I just be wanting to participate in that kind of flow, and that's what those two records were about. And now, since I'm becoming more of a producer and I'm wanting to take it to where I'm combining the elements of like making things that I think are beautiful and pretty with things that elements of hip hop that are like powerful.
Do you see yourself perhaps producing someone else?
I would love to do that. I think that in the past I've been stingy with my music. So I am definitely in the process personally, you know, a personal process of surrendering to the universe as far as what's supposed to happen. I think that now with music that I create, I'm going to see what its destiny is and not hold on so tight to what I think it should go or it should be.
Isn't that like the joy of the collaborative process?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I was just telling someone, I mean, like I've done lately more, like I did some hooks on some hip hop records, and the funnest thing was for me to walk in and have someone else know what they want me to do, and what they wanted me to do is nothing that I would have done. And it's so beautiful to hear myself back and not recognize myself. It's like, that doesn't sound like me.
I love that. Yeah.
And that's great. You know, like that's something that I would never have put together.
Taking it to a level, another level.
Having
so like opening up your
Absolutely.
blessing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Having someone stretch me beyond what I... Beautiful.
To the fullness of your brilliance.
Yeah, say that. Say that. I'll take that.
No, I'm not afraid. Sometimes it seems hard to wait. All I know that we'll visit once again. Oh, I know love. Well, thank you very much. My name is brilliant. And a big hand for yourself, representing Seattle. Seattle R&B in the house, y'all.